Sophia was young. She was a journalist. She carried a small bag and a large notebook.
The year was 1978. The bus rattled on the unpaved road, kicking up a cloud of fine, pale dust that settled everywhere. She had traveled far, very far, to reach this remote corner of Patagonia. The town was small, nestled deep within the imposing Andes Mountains. Its name was whispered with a certain reverence or perhaps a touch of fear. Villa Angostura.
She stepped off the bus, the cold air immediately biting at her exposed skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of Buenos Aires she had left behind.
The mountains loomed, their peaks already dusted with early snow, silent witnesses to countless untold stories. The village felt quiet, too quiet. Houses were scattered, made of dark wood and stone, with smoke curling lazily from their chimneys, the only sign of life in the vast, indifferent landscape. People moved slowly, their faces weathered by the wind and the harsh climate. They looked at her with curious eyes, unaccustomed to new faces in their isolated world.
She found a small inn, the only one in the village.
An old man, a scientist from Europe, they said. He had arrived many years ago after the Great War that had torn the world apart. Some said he sought peace. Others whispered darker things, their voices dropping low as if the wind itself might carry their words to unwanted ears. The innkeeper, a woman with tired eyes and calloused hands, pointed vaguely towards the dense forest that climbed the mountain slopes. "He lives up there," she said, her voice flat. "Alone. He does not like visitors much."
She asked for Dr. Becca.
Senorita, be careful. Some paths are best not taken. There are secrets in these mountains, old secrets. Secrets that can be dangerous to uncover. The past here, it casts a very long shadow, and not all shadows are kind to those who disturb them.
His words hung in the air, a gentle warning, yet filled with an undeniable gravity that made Sophia pause.
Sophia felt a shiver, and it was not just from the biting wind that swept down from the glacial heights. There was an old sorrow in the air, a weight of unspoken things. She clutched her notebook tighter, its blank pages waiting to be filled with the stories this place held. Stories she was determined to uncover.
Reaching the rough-hewn wooden door, Sophia hesitated for a moment. It looked ancient, as if it had withstood countless storms, both of nature and perhaps of the human heart. She raised her hand and knocked. The sound was loud in the oppressive silence, echoing unnaturally in the thin mountain air. Then she waited. Silence descended again, heavier than before. She wondered if anyone was inside, or if the innkeeper had been mistaken. Just as she was about to knock again, she heard a faint stirring from within, the sound of a chair scraping against the wooden floor, slow and deliberate.
Sophia took a deep breath, trying to calm the irrational fear that pricked at her senses. She was a journalist. This was her job. She had come too far to turn back now, despite the growing sense of foreboding that the place exuded.
The air was still, heavy with an unspoken tension. There were no sounds from within, no sign of movement. Only the wind, sighing through the sparse trees that clung to the mountainside, carried a mournful tune. It whispered of loneliness, of forgotten things, of stories buried deep beneath the snow and rock.
She approached slowly, her heart beating a little faster.
The path to Dr. Becker's cabin was barely a trail, winding upwards through a dense forest of coihue and lenga trees. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy, casting long, dancing shadows that played tricks on her eyes. The silence was profound, broken only by the crunch of her boots on fallen leaves and the occasional mournful cry of an unseen bird. It felt as though the forest itself was watching her, holding its breath, guarding the secrets hidden deeper within its embrace. The higher she climbed, the colder the air became, and the more isolated she felt from the small village below. After what seemed like hours of steady climbing, the trees began to thin. She saw it then. The cabin. It was small, made of dark weathered logs, almost camouflaged against the gray rock of the mountainside. Smoke, thin and wispy, curled from its stone chimney, a fragile sign of life in the vast wilderness. The windows were small, like dark, unblinking eyes staring out at the desolate landscape. A sense of unease settled over Sophia. This was a place of solitude, perhaps of deliberate concealment. It felt less like a home and more like a fortress against the world, or perhaps a prison of self-imposed exile.
Sophia followed the vague directions.
The next morning, the air was sharp, crystalline. Sophia felt a chill creep over her skin, a coldness that had little to do with the mountain air and everything to do with the secrets this man so clearly guarded.
Some things are best left in the past, señorita. They are like old wounds. They do not heal well if you disturb them too much.
He gestured vaguely with a trembling hand towards a cluttered table visible just inside the dim cabin where stacks of papers and old leather-bound books lay in disarray. A sudden gust of wind slammed the loose shutter against the cabin wall, making them both jump. The tension in the small space between them thickened palpably. Dr. Becker seemed to shrink further into himself, his gaze darting nervously towards the shadowed interior of his dwelling.
The war. That was another lifetime. A different world. I was a scientist, yes. I worked on many projects.
At the mention of the war, a flicker of something unreadable passed through his pale blue eyes, pain, or perhaps anger or something else entirely.
I wanted to ask you about your past, about your work in Europe before you came to Argentina, about the war.
His tone was not welcoming, nor was it entirely hostile. It was flat, tired, as if he had expected this intrusion, or one like it, for a very long time. He made no move to invite her inside, standing framed in the doorway like a sentinel.
A journalist. It is a long way to come. What does a journalist want with an old man in these mountains?
Dr. Becker, my name is Sofia. I am a journalist from Buenos Aires.
The silence stretched, filled only by the ever-present whisper of the wind around the cabin's exposed corners.
Dr. Becker was an old man. His frame stooped, his face a roadmap of wrinkles and deep-set lines. His eyes, however, were startlingly blue, and they fixed on Sophia with an intensity that was both weary and wary. He wore simple, mended clothes, suited to the harsh environment. He did not speak immediately, merely observing her with a guarded expression that betrayed nothing of his thoughts or feelings.
The door creaked open slowly, revealing a sliver of darkness within. Then a figure emerged. The friendly faces in the inn now seemed to hold a knowing sadness, a shared understanding of the unspoken truths that lay buried in their isolated community. The mountains themselves seemed to press in, their immense presence both beautiful and threatening, guardians of mysteries too profound or too terrible to be easily surrendered. Sophia left Villa Angostura the next day, the bus carrying her away from the cold, enigmatic peaks. Her notebook was not as full as she had hoped, yet it was heavy with unasked questions and the palpable weight of the unknown. Dr. Becker's evasiveness, the strange documents she had glimpsed, the unsettling sounds from within his cabin. It all pointed to something hidden, something perhaps sinister. What terrible truths remained locked away in that isolated cabin in the heart of the old scientist? And what secrets did the silent, echoing mountains continue to protect, their whispers lost on the Patagonian wind?
Some secrets are dangerous.
The door closed with a soft, final click, leaving her alone once more with the wind and the silent, watching mountains. As she turned to leave, a strange sound reached her ears from within the cabin. It was faint, muffled, but distinct, a low mechanical hum, almost like the whirring of old machinery, followed by what could have been a stifled cry, or perhaps just the wind playing tricks. She paused, listening intently, but the sound did not repeat itself. Only the mournful sigh of the wind answered her unspoken question. Back in the village, as dusk began to settle, painting the snow-capped peaks in hues of purple and gray, Pedro's warning echoed in her mind.
Reluctantly, Sophia stepped back.
He began to close the door, a clear dismissal.
I am tired. I have nothing more to say. You should go now. The weather can change quickly in these mountains. It is not safe to be caught out after dark.
Sophia wanted to press further, to ask about the specific nature of his scientific work during those dark years in Europe, about the whispers that had followed him across the ocean to this remote sanctuary. But she saw the fear in Dr. Becker's eyes, a deep, haunted look that spoke of horror she could only imagine. He seemed suddenly frail, overwhelmed.